Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Moving Markets Podcast. It is Monday, December 15th, 2025. I'm trying to hurry and get this recording out because I want all the members of the program to get a couple of updates on things. The stock market has been closed for almost an hour now. I am definitely getting this out a little bit later than what I would have preferred to do, but I'm going to give you the reason and tell you kind of what the deal is for this week. So I was on the road for the last couple of hours and just arrived at my home in the southern part of the state where my wife and I are going to be for the remainder of this week. This is a little short, I would call it a staycation for this week before all of our family gathers at our home in northern Utah for the Christmas holiday. I am going to keep a relatively normal schedule this week, maybe some little changes. The biggest change this week is that I'm not going to give you any kind of a promise that the daily podcast will be out at a normal time. In fact, I'll tell you probably for the remainder of this week, the podcast is going to be in the morning within the first hour that the markets are open, rather than in the afternoon when the markets close, today being the obvious exception. Also, you have not received, at the time most of you are listening to this, you have probably not received a Signal newsletter yet. I am working on that. That is going to come out sometime in the next couple of hours, and we'll have a new trade. And then for the Triple Play members of the program, we put out 3 trades this morning for Triple Play. None of the 3 filled. So I am going to be back to the drawing board, probably with some new trades tomorrow morning. We tried to get into a trade on FedEx. We tried to get into a trade on Palo Alto Networks. They had kind of an ugly day today, down $3. That's probably why we couldn't get in, because they took such a big hit. We tried to get into a new trade on Meta today, and Meta had Meta had a slightly up day, but not a lot relative from a percentage standpoint. They didn't have a lot. And then we tried to get into a trade on FedEx. I'm definitely going to try again on FedEx tomorrow. I'll see how I feel about PANW, Palo Alto Networks, and how I feel about Meta tomorrow. Meta had such a small move today. I think I am going to try again on Meta. It may be with some different strike prices. And I think I'll probably try again on Palo Alto Networks, but it will for sure be with some different strike prices. FedEx had a little bit too big of a drop today to get it. But here's the good news about FedEx. I really, really like where FedEx is at relative to the fact that they have earnings coming up, because the fact that they're trading down here in between their strongest support level at 270 and their next resistance, which is up around their all-time high, a little short of 290. FedEx is actually in a good spot for that. So we'll try be watching Discord, be watching your email tomorrow morning on Triple Play trades. And then here within the next hour or two, we'll get out a Signal newsletter trade. Because I didn't get either one of those done today, because we didn't get successfully in any of the Triple Play trades, and because we didn't get a trade out yet for the Signal newsletter, I'm not going to take much time in this podcast today. I want to get things out. Let me comment just a little bit on what the markets did. That the Dow almost made it back into positive territory before the day was over. It started out positive, up a couple hundred points. Less than 30 minutes into trading, the Dow had a big sell-off, big drop, then back and forth and wobbly. Tried right here briefly for a split second, right about there, got back into positive territory. And then in the last 10 or so minutes that the market was open, it sold off again and went negative, not by a huge amount. The Dow being down 41 is less than 0.1%. So that's not a big, massive sell-off today. But the NASDAQ had a rough day, and I think it's just a little bit. The NASDAQ is some continuing hangover on this stupid, moronic, idiotic, asinine overreaction to fear about AI and all the stocks that are related to AI, maybe with the exception of NVIDIA and Palantir, got hit again today. Oracle, Microsoft, Broadcom, the ones that got blamed for it last week took another hit today. I think it's stupidity. I think it's sheer stupidity, and I love it because it's going to set right now in the short run. It kind of sucks for our trades on Nvidia. Well, Nvidia was up a little bit today, and we got out of Palantir last week for just barely over 20%. But it kind of sucks for our trades on Micron, AMD, Amazon. But I've mentioned this a couple of times, and I'll tell you again, I am still so not worried about these trades. I'm just not. I don't think any one of them are in trouble. I don't think there's any jeopardy for any of these trades to not be profitable trades. Micron were set up such that if we're not profitable ahead of the earnings report on Thursday, I think we'll be profitable on Friday, and I think we'll be profitable nicely because Micron, I believe, is going to trade right in, Micron is going to move big after their earnings, whether it's up or down. It's had 3 days in a row of a slide, but whether after earnings it moves up or down, I don't care. It will so easily go back up to and above 60, or it will tank and go all the way down to 220. So 260 or 220 by Friday at the close, I think is almost a guarantee for Micron. It's a little unfortunate that after a big couple of days up after we got into the trade, it's had 3 days in a row that it's moved back down, but I'm just not in the least worried about Micron and where it's going to go at the end of this week. Lululemon, they started today very shaky and wobbly and were down a little bit, but I think by the time the market closed, they were back up. And our trade is at or above its target profit on Lululemon. So if you haven't already, I think you take the gift and you get out of this one. It should be profitable to the tune that you can get out. I don't think I'm out of my trade because I didn't pull that trigger while the market was open today. So I'm probably going to exit it first thing tomorrow morning. I don't think they're in jeopardy of any sustained sell-off this week or anything. Like I said, it was a little bit dicey this morning, but they ended up finishing up $1.32 and $6.25 above where we need them to be. And I'm not in the slightest worried about this little bit of aftermarket trading right there. Within the next couple of hours, I'll get a newsletter out. I'm still a little bit torn on what trade to make. If I decide to hold off one day on a new trade and see how the market's open tomorrow, I'll send something out in the morning that everybody can get into, before we get too deep into trading tomorrow. Plus the fact that I haven't sent anything, whatever I send out, you're not going to be able to open it till tomorrow morning anyway, which is the same as what I'm going to do. So I'm going to wrap up right there. I don't have a lot more than that. I'll get a podcast out every day this week, but it's probably, like I said, it's probably going to be in the morning around the time the markets are opening or within that first hour of trading, because I'm going to be doing other stuff for most of the rest of the day, each of the next several days. So again, the only thing that's going to be different this week than any other week is going to be the fact that the podcast is going to come out at a different time of day than what it normally does. So I hope you had a good Monday. Watch for the newsletter later today, and we'll be otherwise pretty normal this week. And look for the newsletter tonight and some new triple play trades in the morning. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.